Thought Bubble Audio.
Look, up in the sky!
You will never find the more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
Welcome to Beer with Geeks with Tim and Frank.
Who are you?
I'm Batman.
I am Iron Man.
Your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Hi, Christopher. I'm Nero.
My name is Inigo Montoya.
You're a wizard, Harry.
A couple of guys with a couple of beers and a whole lot of pop culture nostalgia.
Make it so, number one.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Beatles.
Name the dog, Indiana.
Life finds a way.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Now sit back and crack open a cold one, because it's time for Beer with Geeks.
It comes in paints?
Shaken, not stirred.
Great Scott!
I was way off. I knew it started with an S, though.
Hi, and welcome to Beer with Geeks, where two geeks geek out with beer. I'm Tim, and with me, as always, is my fourth wall breaking friend, Frank. How are you today?
See, he just said fourth wall breaking friend, but what he has no idea is that I'm about to turn into a guy who I have a mouth.
All right, I never said you were
I'm not
breaking
just
the fourth wall. I was just
did I.
pointing out
Just
that
that it
you did
happens.
it. Who are you talking to?
Don't worry about it. It's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
What are you drinking?
I'm drinking Sam Adams Scotch Ale. Says, this is a brew for adventurous ale drinkers. An ale with 4 special malts, including a rare peat smoked malt used in Scotch whiskies. This, turn the bottle, unique malt gives Scotch ale a subtle smoky flavor and deep amber hue. This is a big malty brew with a long, smooth finish. Cheers. Actually, hey, that's our line. I haven't actually tried this yet. What are you drinking?
Ooh, I'm drinking Sam Adams limited release Escape Route, and this is a German Kolsch style ale, unfiltered. It's that style from Cologne, Germany. It says here.
Why do you think it's called Escape Route?
That's a very good
Are there
question.
people escaping from Germany on the bottle?
Because it's a refreshing brew
We
to
hate
help.
pretzels. Let's get out of here.
Get away!
I don't know.
Now they say it's a light, refreshing brew to help escape those lingering cold days.
That makes sense. Okay. Well, what does yours taste like?
Mine. Here, cheers to you.
Cheers, thank you.
And the episode's over. That's
No,
it.
we make that joke too much. I think.
It's only the second time you made that joke.
No, I'm pretty sure it's not, but it's okay. Maybe it was recently.
Well, yeah, okay. It's a light, kind of malty, not hoppy, but a more malty, grainy type. Much like a wheat beer. It has a taste much like a wheat beer without it's not so citrusy.
Okay.
How about yours?
I don't know.
Does it taste like Scotch?
No, it does not taste like Scotch.
Mm.
It's got a bit of a malty, almost like a stout,
Okay.
heaviness to it.
Okay.
Do that again. I can. There's definitely a smoky hue.
Smoke. Okay. Yeah, makes sense.
It's good. I like it. It's definitely not one that you can drink a lot of.
Yeah. Okay. So it's a slow drinker.
It is absolutely a slow drinking beer.
Okay.
So slow, I may be drinking it next week. So, yeah. But it is.
Tune in next week to find out.
But it is delicious.
Well, I don't know about next week, but last week we got to see a movie together.
We did.
And it was a very enjoyable movie. It's a comic book movie.
It was.
But it was not a kid's movie.
Fantastic Four.
That is Fantastic.
No. No, that wasn't it, right?
No, it wasn't. But see, whereas Fantastic Four made me curse at the movie, this movie cursed at me instead.
Ah.
Yeah.
It broke the fourth wall,
Yeah,
if you will. Yeah.
It did.
Actually, did Deadpool actually... We saw Deadpool.
He didn't.
No, I'm
Surprise. If you didn't read the episode description.
I don't know why we bury the lead. What's the point? But they don't swear. He doesn't swear at the audience.
No, I guess that's true.
Yeah.
I guess that's true.
Yeah. So my joke was meaningless. Yeah.
I just meant more that, like, whereas this one they were swearing in it, and that one I was swearing at it.
Right. All right. So Deadpool has done very well for itself at the box office. Yeah.
It broke records for an R-rated movie.
It is the highest grossing R-rated movie of all time, actually. It is the 7th highest rated comic book movie. Actually,
7th? Wow.
It is the highest opening X-Men movie.
Interesting.
Over the Wolverine. Its weekend total is bigger than the total box office take domestically for the Wolverine.
You're kidding.
Yeah.
Well, the Wolverine had was it the Wolverine?
No, not Wolverine Origins. The Wolverine.
You're right,
The Japanese.
Yes.
The Japanese one.
Yes. Because I was gonna. Yeah, you know exactly where I was going with Wolverine Origins.
Yes.
X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Yes, I did. Yeah, it's very. It's been doing very well for itself. It's made 100 and. I'm not looking at it on my phone. I'm not going to look it up.
I saw 150.
Yeah, I think they projected 130, and I think it landed at 150 something, which is huge.
Very impressive,
even for an R-rated movie. It's
in general,
very impressive for 4 days.
Yeah,
right, because it came over President's Day weekend.
Right, Friday through Monday.
Right. Yeah, Thursday night.
You're right. Yeah, Thursday night. Yeah,
so it's like 4.5 days. Still, it's extremely impressive.
Oh yeah,
there are definitely a lot of theaters letting kids into this movie.
Oh, for sure.
Although they're not really the market. Kids under 18 aren't the market. 18 to 49 is really your movie-going crowd.
Yeah, but they're not going to refuse $12 from a 16-year-old.
No, probably not.
You know?
No, one that, looks 17,
Sure. But yeah, no, there's definitely a lot of people just turning a blind eye and letting that happen because money.
Right. Do you think that this movie deserves that amount, deserves that credit? We're seeing a lot of, it's changed the game. Superhero movies forever are different and stuff like that. Do you think this movie deserves all of that?
I think that it shouldn't be a big surprise to anyone. But that's coming from me who has minimal but some exposure to Deadpool already. So I knew what to expect. It's it's almost like Spider-Man but with cursing. Like he's got the quips, he's not afraid. There's a lot of similarities to Deadpool in costume to Spider-Man in costume. So I kind of knew what to like. I know I think kind of humor and that kind of thing. But someone who doesn't know, to sort of the mainstream audience, maybe it's a surprise. It changed the game. I think we're going to see a lot more of this now. I think people are going to chase the profits and see this did well.
Yeah, they're probably going to take the wrong lesson from this movie.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree. I think they're going to think they need to go more and more hard R.
Yeah, but that's not what this.
No, it's not what it's about.
That's not what. It's not about the R. It's not about the fourth wall breaking. It's just do justice by the character that you have chosen to bring to the screen.
That is right.
That is the lesson.
This character is this way.
Right. If you make a good movie, people will go see your good movie.
That's the lesson.
Yeah, generally speaking. There are exceptions to that rule.
Yeah,
of course.
yeah.
Like Edge of Tomorrow with Tom Cruise and Emily Blunt was an excellent movie that nobody saw.
Because it was marketed terribly.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
This movie was not. It was marketed brilliantly.
I think that is a big thing to take away from this film too, is that don't be afraid of trust in the character, trust in the director, trust in the story you're telling. If you don't trust in those things, you probably shouldn't be making that movie.
Right. This movie has it's a very basic story. It's a simple revenge tale, a little bit of a love story, and the really two things differentiate it from other things. One is Deadpool, the character, and the other is a little bit in the non-linear storytelling way. You start with
the
a big action piece and you
yeah.
flashback, and then you do a little bit more on the bridge, and then you flashback and you do a little bit more and a little bit more. Did that work for you?
Yeah, actually, more than it normally does. I usually don't really care for that type of storytelling.
Right.
And I tend to, a lot of times when you have flashbacks, they don't commit to that too much. Like,
right.
They'll do a couple, they'll do, and you sort of, it's mostly linear, usually mostly linear, except for a few flashbacks. But they pretty much committed to it until like the third act.
Yeah.
The first and second acts were pretty much back and forth, and it can be disorienting at times, but they did a good job with it. Where I knew what timeline we were in.
I think there's a tonal shift between pre-Deadpool and post-Deadpool. Before he gets the powers and after he gets the powers, because he doesn't break the fourth wall until he goes through the treatment.
That's right.
There are some jokes, I think, like he makes the super suit in green joke and stuff like that. Green Lantern joke, but it's not. It's just the movie. Maybe he saw something, or maybe Green Lantern exists in his universe or something like that. But only until he goes through the process. Does he break the fourth wall? I don't think the movie did a great job at the differentiating that psychosis, or you know what I mean, like what made him snap or not snap. Because there are times like when he's not in costume after the treatment that he's basically exactly the same as he was before, except that he looks different. Like when he's talking to Weasel, when he's talking to T.J. Miller in the bar, he's not doing anything different than what he would normally do otherwise. And it's only in the costume does he act differently, and it feels, it doesn't, what's the right word? Not the same. There's a better word.
It doesn't match up. It doesn't.
Yeah, it doesn't match up.
Yeah,
there's a better word for that. But match up is good. Yeah,
you're doing this
taffy stretch thing.
Yeah, I was like silly putty stretching in my hands.
It doesn't match up
it
as my fingers move
mirror.
away.
It doesn't.
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Okay. Fair.
Yeah. That I think was maybe my biggest thing with the movie. It just that part, like it was either like commit or don't commit.
Okay.
You know, like commit to him being bonkers after the treatment with Ajax, or don't. You know what I mean? It was weird that he did when he was in costume and he didn't when he was out of costume, but there's really no reason otherwise, you know.
Interesting.
Though he did break the fourth wall. He hit, the 16 times wall break, a wall break inside of a wall break. That's like 16 wall breaks. Yeah. Yeah. That's the only time, I think. And that I thought was a weird misstep.
Yeah.
My headphones. Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
Now.
Okay, that's a good point. That definitely is something that could have been more consistent, but that I was willing to forgive that because that's pretty common. Awesome. Well, yeah, I mean, because it's a common way of doing things when you're doing a wall breaking type character,
right?
Right, is that they do it kind of selectively or at select times, and they don't do it in their everyday conversations. It's usually like during the big fight or when they're confronting the bad guy or whatever, but not when they're at the bank or like whatever.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So, or at the bar, as it were. What did you think of the cast?
Cast was really strong. Across the board. I didn't watch anybody and go, "You don't belong in this movie," or you're not playing it right, or anything like that. I think that maybe characters some were more fleshed out than others. Like I thought Ajax you were a British villain and you did what you were supposed to do, and you'll go down in the book of non-memorable supervillains in a comic book movie. Generally speaking.
Yeah.
But that's fine, because the movie's not about him. I didn't need to care about him. He fulfilled the function that he needed to fulfill, and we moved on from him. This film will not be criticized the way that Tim Burton's Batman movies are, where it's like, oh, this movie's about Batman. No, but it's actually about the Joker. It's actually about Penguin and Catwoman, or Max Shrek, or whatever.
Yeah.
We've gone away from that movement. Because if a character because Ajax plays it straight, right? Ed Skrein plays it, Skrein, whatever, plays it straight. So, and Deadpool is so bonkers that you need a villain. You need everybody else around him to be everybody else around him to be straightforward, because he's too out there to have anybody try to match that. It would come off weird. But I thought Ryan Reynolds did a great job. Like a lot of people have said, born to play the character and everything like that. And even in X-Men Origins Wolverine, which is a terrible film riddled by writer's strike. Sounds like a weird illness.
Yeah.
Of the writer's strike.
It suffers from writer's strike.
He suffers from writer's strike. But those 10 minutes or 5 minutes whenever he's on screen, like he got it, So, and he continues to get it. I think under a lesser person, the movie would have fallen apart.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Yeah, he sells it.
Yes. Yes. And the born to play the role is there's definitely something to that. He is really, really good for it. Yeah, he does an excellent job. I loved his performance. It is always hard to believably be one superhero and then be another, and not have that kind of be in someone's mind.
Did it enter your mind at all?
Well, normally it would, but here it didn't, because except for when they reminded us twice.
Right.
But other than that, like, it really didn't. And I mean, maybe that's because I've only seen Green Lantern like 2 or 3 times, and it wasn't very good, and I want to forget it.
But I don't. But he's not the problem in that movie.
That's true.
Nor is he the problem in X-Men X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I think those are the two ticks in his favor. He's not the problem. Every time it's the story. It's never him.
I agree.
He didn't make it fall apart. You do your best with what you're given. What about Vanessa? You're a big Miranda Backerman fan.
I love Miranda Baccarin.
Yeah.
And I mean, she didn't have a whole lot to do in terms of acting in this film. I would say like she had a short part of the film, like basically the falling in love sequence, right?
But she is the MacGuffin, really.
She is, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, she is kind of what moves everything forward and makes it come to the climax.
Yeah.
So yeah, in that sense, you're absolutely right. But that's unfortunately not. She wasn't given the opportunity to have that be a product of her acting.
Right.
It was more her existence.
Yes.
So I wish she was given more to do because I think she's a phenomenal actress.
Mm-hmm.
So I would have loved to see her be able to do some more real acting, some real tough acting, and some really good stuff. But I thought she did a marvelous job with what she was given, and she's always a pleasure to watch. So
yeah, I agree. She is a comic character.
Yes,
she is copycat traditionally. Who is actually usually a teenager or thereabouts, and blue. And she's a shapeshifter, and so first appearing technically in New Mutants '98 with Deadpool.
Okay.
But she was Domino, pretending to be Domino at the time.
Okay.
So it's very mixy.
Yeah.
But I did like that. I did like that not everybody in the movie was a mutant. Magically she's a mutant and they're a mutant and everybody's a mutant.
That's one of the things about X-Men that often kind of loses me is I'm just sort of like, all right, I get it. Everyone's a mutant. And okay, fine.
Right.
I get it. Everybody. Yep. Absolutely everybody.
So do you feel the same way when you read the Justice League and you're like, okay, I get everybody's a superhero?
No, because they're not all. You can be a superhero without being like an alien. Like if they were all aliens, or if they were all if they're all one
if
thing.
They were like a team of aliens. You'd be like, yeah, I get it. You're all aliens.
That's kind of like Legion of superheroes. I'm a little bit like, all right, you're all from the future, and you have these names like Lass and Lad. Like,
yeah, that's true. Although the X-Men
same.
generally don't have Lass and Lad.
They don't, but I'm saying they all have one thing in common.
They have one thing.
Yeah.
So that thing that you're all mutants,
right?
And so it loses some dramatic edge at that point to you.
It's just less interesting to me because it's just sort of like it. Just, they seem like carbon copies of each other at a certain point. Where like the Avengers or Justice League, you've got Superman's an alien, Wonder Woman's a god, Batman's just a guy. Cyborg is a robot. Like you've got some differences there. So
right, but it's not really the topic of the conversation. But even though they're all mutants, they all have different powers. So
yeah. But when you the main X-Men are interesting to me,
right?
But all the ancillary characters are sort of like they're just all kind of this generic teenager with this power, and like they all have similar stories, and like
that I can understand that.
Yeah. The main X-Men like Cyborg,
I do feel you on that.
Yeah,
I don't disagree with you either. I think that might come from you like the ones that you learned about first, kind of thing.
Yeah, that could could very well be true.
That's a huge thing.
That is a big
like,
thing.
If I didn't like new characters,
it
takes a lot.
Like, all right, prove it to me that you're interested.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Do something different. And if you don't do anything different, you're like, well, I've seen you in something else before.
Yeah. And it's like, well, what can you do that Cyclops can't do? Like, I would rather just read a Cyclops story then.
Right, exactly. Oh, you also shoot laser beams out of your eyes?
That's nice.
That's fantastic. Optic glass. I don't want to get letters.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Optic blast him.
Yeah, I got it. I know what they're called. But so that's totally. I get it. Now I like the X-Men more than you, so I was super pumped to see Colossus done right on the big screen.
That was cool. I enjoyed that. After I've only ever like read a few stories involving him, but that was cool to see.
Yeah, Colossus is in my top 5 favorite X-Men.
Okay.
And not that Daniel Cudmore did a bad job, don't get me wrong, in the other X-Men movies, but it just wasn't really Colossus to me. He wasn't that big. His metal skin it didn't really look like Colossus. He wasn't Russian, which I always thought was just weird. Like, why you got to make them all American or Canadian? What's the point?
Yeah.
Like, the part of the fun of the X-Men is that it's so diverse, that they're from all over the world. And so if you all make them from the same, like they're all from New York, then
Yeah.
it's not as interesting, you know. So I really enjoyed Colossus in this film. He played a really good straight man.
Yes.
To
Totally.
Deadpool's wackiness.
Yes. Totally.
Yeah, and then Negasonic Teenage Warhead, who's a Grant Morrison creation, only in one issue of the comic. She is actually deceased in the comics,
Okay.
I believe. And her powers in the movie are not really even her powers in the comic. They were just kind of like, you know, here's this, you know, like, we need X-Men, so, like, let's run down the list. And Fox a lot of times like, no, can't use them, too expensive, can't use it. And they were like, fine, Negasonic Teenage Warhead. And they were like, what? And you're like, exactly. They're like, fine, whatever. No, Bryan Singer's not going to use her anytime soon. So
Really big house for only two of you. It's almost like you couldn't afford to have more of them in the movie.
That was a great line. Apparently, I listened to Ryan Reynolds speak, and he was talking about that line, and he said that on the day when a producer showed up.
Oh wow!
Like the one that was like, no, you can't, like, too expensive, do this, whatever. And so he said it basically to make that guy laugh because he knew he'd appreciate it, and it somehow ended up in the movie.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, which is awesome. I would really like to know how much of this movie is improv versus how much of it is in the script.
Yeah, true.
I would like to see the original script.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man. And there were even like things that were improv and other things. One thing I do want to say is Negasonic Teenage Warhead is such a Grant Morrison name for a character.
It actually comes from a death metal band, I think.
Oh,
actually.
really?
I think it's a song or it's a line from a song, something like that. Yeah.
Interesting, because that was like Most Excellent, Super Bad, like all these like.
Yeah, it's not actually
wow.
his. Yeah.
Okay, because it sounds like something he would have made up.
Yeah, I agree.
Wow,
I agree, but
corrected.
he pulled it from something.
I stand corrected.
Cool, though, right?
It is.
Yeah.
It's over the top. That's
so
why
over the top.
Yeah, because he does that like on purpose. Like that's his sense of humor is like these things that are ridiculously comic book in their ridiculous comic bookness.
Yeah.
There were so many gags and fun things like for the audience. I mean, the opening sequence alone, I would call it an opening credit sequence, but there was nothing credit about it. Just like produced by asshats, like, things like that.
My favorite. That one was my favorite because there's a guy I work with who says asshats all the time,
that's
and
great.
I saw it on screen. I was like, this movie was made for him.
Oh,
yeah.
that's great. Written by the real heroes.
The real heroes here, starring a British guy, a CG character,
Yeah, I was like, CG character? Wait, which CG character? Like, Deadpool's on CG, and then as soon as
Colossus
I was like, oh, there's our CG
There's
character.
a CG character right there.
A hot chick.
We cannot allow this Deadpool.
Yes.
Yeah. It's my Russian accent, my Colossus accent.
Not bad.
Did you eat breakfast this morning? Protein bar. Good for bones. Yeah. Is that the Deadpool? Yeah, it's very good. Did you have a joke that stood out to you, particularly?
Oh, man. There were so many that I don't. I'm struggling to remember some of them now, and
Because I also put you on the spot.
a little bit, but I mean, even so, there were so. Do you have one that stood out to you? 'Cause I do need a minute to think about
there are
it.
a couple there are a couple that I thought were pretty outstanding that are in my brain still. Yeah. If you'd like me to run through mine,
Please do.
I loved when he's leaving Blind Al, and he's like, "Oh, by the way, there's a bunch of cocaine hidden next to the cure for the blindness somewhere in the."
So mean,
that
but
was
so funny.
mean, so good. I loved that. The same scene, actually. I love T.J. Miller's. I'd go with you, but I don't want to. It's just really, I like that. I would have liked to have seen more of T.J. Miller. I would have liked to have seen more of Weasel.
I would have liked to see more T.J. Miller. Yeah. What I enjoyed were all the it seemed like there were a lot of comparisons between people and like what their appearance looked like.
Yeah.
And someone always looked like they had sex with something else.
I agree.
That was always the joke. And I started noticing that was the formula, but I was like, it's still really funny.
It still
though.
works. It's
like an avocado with an older, uglier avocado or whatever.
Right.
Like
somebody was saying that, I think it was Ryan Reynolds. He said that like to get swear something, you have to add adjectives and nouns to this other thing to flesh it out. That's how you make the formula work for that kind of
that kind of joke.
Yeah, so there is a system to it, which I think is interesting.
Yeah, and it was I was aware of it, but still thoroughly enjoying it.
Right. My favorite joke though on the whole, for whatever reason, stuck with me when Deadpool is trying to fight Colossus on the bridge. and and he like puts his hand behind and he touches him and he's like, Dad.
Oh,
and
yeah.
all that. So I loved that, and I loved he hits him in the crotch. He goes, oh, your poor wife. All of that. So I loved when he like breaks the foot in his hands and he starts flopping around and he's like the dinosaur's fear the Tyrannosaurus.
Rex,
yeah, that was my favorite. I thought that was so funny.
That was pretty good. That was very good.
Yeah. So unexpected. Really more for him than for anybody else. There was nothing.
Because it was like apropos of nothing, just totally unrelated to everything, but really funny.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed pretty much anything with TJ Miller. Like the banter there was always great. But yeah, I really could have used more. Really could have used more TJ Miller. And I he's not necessarily my favorite comedic actor, but he was. I thought like this was a good role for him, a really good fit for him.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
What about Gina Carano? Did she do anything for you?
Yeah. I mean, what's not to like?
Big, strong, whatever.
Yeah.
Do you think our lines were dubbed over? Because apparently they dubbed her over for Haywire. Yeah, Haywire.
Really?
Haywire. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
I don't think she was in this movie, but I did notice there was after she's stitching up Ajax in the back.
Yeah.
And she says something out of focus while it's on her, and I don't think her mouth moved. And to me, I was like, that feels like you dubbed that line over.
I mean, they could have had her do ADR like to add a line in. Like
that's true.
But whether she was dubbed over by another actress, that's interesting.
I'm not sure.
I've never seen her outside. Like I've never seen her like in an interview or anything to know what her
Right.
voice really sounds like. So I wouldn't know.
Right.
I mean, I thought she was the fight with Colossus was obviously like a highlight for her.
Yes.
So yeah, I thought she had like when he's telling her that she's exposed, she's like, "Oh, sweet," and she like trashes him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I enjoyed all of that. We have not talked about the taxi driver.
Oh man, one of my favorite characters in the whole movie.
Yeah, I know. I think
that was such a funny story.
I think he had two of the best scenes in the movie, and nobody's really talking about it. The say like the way that they should. Like Mr. Deadpool. Oh,
yeah.
Mr. Poole,
and like some of the funniest Deadpool scenes too. Like not just funniest scenes overall, but funniest scenes for that character. For Deadpool's
I'm so
character.
proud of you. Kill him.
Yeah. Do not do that.
Yeah.
Kill him.
I'm so proud of you. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah. The crisp high five for you. 10. I think there was a lot of.
I knew that I was gonna like this. I knew I liked this character when he wasn't mad the first time when he had no money. He was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And he just took the high five. And then he still picks him up a second time. Mm-hmm. And he's like fully knowing he's not going to get paid. And he's like, crisp high five?
Yeah. He just liked his company.
He disliked him.
His emotive face. I thought the movie was smart to call attention to the fourth wall breaking right at the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
Subtly.
You have to.
When he gets the gum stuck on the lens and he pulls it off.
Oh, yeah.
I thought like it's almost a subconscious little,
this is how it's going to be.
This is how it's going to play out. I enjoyed all that. I overall, I really did enjoy the movie. I think that it definitely had a couple of missteps in a few ways that we already talked about, but overall, it's a really enjoyable.
Oh yeah, it's so much fun.
Enjoyable experience.
It's one of those movies that I knew I was going to like it. I tried not to get too spoiled on it. Didn't read too much, about it.
I didn't either.
I saw the trailers as I saw them, but I didn't go out of my way. Not like I did with Star Wars, where like every time they were gonna. I watched Monday Night Football to see that trailer that time. Like all these things to make sure I wanted to see everything as soon as it was available, and watch them over and over and over again. And this, I really didn't go out of my way. I just like as I see it, I'll watch it. I don't need to be completely unaware of what's happening, but I want to enjoy this somewhat clean.
Did you notice that the jokes from the trailer kind of fell flat in the theater?
Yeah, I did. I did. Now, you saw it twice already, right? So
yeah.
And did that happen both times you saw it?
Both times.
Both times.
Yeah, the jokes from the trailer fell flat in the movie.
Okay.
Not because they're not funny, but because people had seen them before.
Yeah.
And some of them, because the movie was like there was a lot of interplay between characters and improv, I expected some of them to be different. Like we talked about TJ Miller, like what he calls Deadpool, like when he sees his face, and oh, you like this, you taught this, and blah blah blah.
Mm-hmm.
but it was all the same. And I said maybe that was maybe a misstep. Like I'm sure there were definitely other takes that you could have used because you knew people would have seen these trailers.
Normally, I don't really enjoy it when I notice that they've like.
No, me either.
It takes me out of the movie. Like, use a different take there.
Use a different scene.
Yeah.
I usually have the same reaction, but this is one because you know these guys are so good at what they do. Maybe it would have been better to show us different versions.
So you would rather have gotten new jokes and gotten to enjoy like sort of twice the jokes out of those like from that same scene.
Yeah.
Rather than see the same joke again and not laugh.
Yeah.
Interesting. I think I don't know if I agree, but I do think that it shows that even though this is a rated R film and people maybe are didn't know what to expect necessarily. Most of the people, at least in the showings we saw, were excited to see this movie and had seen the trailer.
I agree.
So they didn't laugh at those jokes as much because they'd heard them already. And that's it seems like kind of a rare thing to me. I feel like usually like those things still get a decent laugh.
Yeah,
they're being shown in the trailer because someone thinks they're some of the funniest jokes, right?
Right,
So
I agree.
You'd think they would still get a decent laugh, but yeah, interesting that apparently the fans went to see it this past week, opening weekend anyway.
Maybe you saw the trailer too.
Saw the trailer, yeah, enough that they were like, okay, I remember that one.
Yeah,
a little chuckle, but that's it.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's speak about the after credit scene. I feel like
it's over. Go home.
Yeah. Do you want to hear something really embarrassing? I didn't know that was Ferris Bueller the first time I watched it.
Oh, no way!
It didn't even
too bad.
click in my brain.
It's too bad.
That it was Ferris Bueller.
Oh.
It did the second time. I got it like...
Okay.
Not even because somebody was like, oh, it's Ferris Bueller when I saw it the second time.
Yeah.
Like, we didn't talk about it. For whatever reason, it just didn't connect it with Ferris Bueller, even though it's the same, you know?
It's
the bathrobe, the hallway,
and the lines are. I mean, like, you're still here. It's over. Go home.
Yeah.
That's too bad. But did you like appreciate it that much more the second time when you put
Yeah, but I really liked it without
that,
recognizing that it was a parody of Ferris Bueller.
And then when he talks about cable and all that,
I quite enjoyed. Well, I liked their riff off of like a Marvel stinger. You know,
yes,
like,
exactly.
you know, would you expect Sam Jackson to show up with the trench coat? Like, no, you know, like I tell you, we're gonna have Cable. That's there you go.
That's the best I got.
Which I was really excited about because I like Cable.
Right.
I love that character. So
when he said something about Sam Jackson, I was like, does this mean Sam Jackson's about to walk out now?
I kind of didn't expect that. There was a weird part of me that was like, maybe Sam Jackson's going to walk through the door.
But I was also like, but just be Sam.
But just be Sam Jackson. Well, Sam Jackson probably do it for free. He'd be like, that sounds fun. Whatever. I did like all that. What do you think about Cable being in the next movie? How do you feel about it?
I don't really have any connection to the character, so like I'm like that's cool. Like I don't really care. Not in a bad way. Not like I don't care. Like I don't care about the character. Just like it doesn't faze me one way or the other.
Right, because we already talked about how much you love the X-Men. So
exactly. I'm not a huge X-Men fan, so like I'm like okay, cool, yeah. Like I'm as excited for that as I am for any other X-Men related character
to show up. Yeah. I like Cable a lot, so
it's kind of equal opportunity for me. So
his X-Men history is so bonkers that it's crazy because he's the son of Scott and Jean Grey, but not Jean Grey, Madeline Pryor, who is the clone of Jean Grey.
Right.
And he has a weird virus, so they send him into the future, hoping that it will be cured in the future, but it's not. It's only kind of put into weird stasis, which is why he has a weird eye and a metal arm and all that stuff. And so his real name's also not Cable. So
he watches a lot of cable TV.
Yeah, I'm sure that's it, because that probably still exists in the future.
Probably.
You know,
based
on how many people still have cable today.
Correct.
Yeah. So, right. So, all right.
Yeah, no, but that's cool. And then, you know, it ended the perfect way.
It did.
Is
yeah, actually, that has been in my head since seeing the movie, just like on repeat.
Oh, man.
Oh, one thing I wanted to talk about. Do you think that we're going to see more superhero masks with emotive eyes now? With the CG emotive.
Yeah, that was
eyes.
cool. That was different than pretty much anything we've seen.
I've never seen a mask with white eyes move before.
Yeah, I can't think of any others. I like that. Yeah, I would venture that that's going to happen more.
Yeah,
I would guess it's going to happen more because it's less It's so like when the first Spider-Man movie came out, the first Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie, right? And even before that, the idea was they would take off the mask every chance they get, so you can see their faces, right? Iron Man did it too. Every chance he gets, take off the mask so you can see his face. Partly so they can emote, but also partly because we paid good money for Robert Downey Jr. and we're going to see his face. But I feel like that has become, they did that because they thought it was too cheesy to have the mask on the whole time, partly too. And I feel like that has become cheesy in itself of having them take off the mask every 2 seconds.
I agree.
So I feel like this might be a good, way to like middle ground. Like we'll get our emotion on the face and still have them be in mask like they're supposed to be, quote unquote, supposed to be.
Right.
So yeah, I think it will happen more.
Well, I give props to Ryan Reynolds a lot, even to keeping that mask on most of the time, because
and doing the flashbacks made it so that he was without his mask for a good chunk of the movie still too.
Yes, I agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you didn't feel like you missed his face or anything like that when he wore it, because you saw so much of it in those flashbacks. Very good, very good.
Cool. Hey, listen, before we go, I would like to read an email. that we've received. Okay. We got some feedback on our Superman Returns episode. This comes from Scott. Scott says, "Thank you so much for the great podcast about Superman Returns. I love this movie so much, and it was refreshing to hear someone talk about it in a positive light for a change. I first saw it in the theater with my dad and was not expecting the John Williams / Donner opener. Seriously brought tears to my eyes." And then he says, "I'm a little behind your podcast, so I don't know. Have you done a podcast on the Kirk Alyn serials? I've heard you mentioned just about everything Superman except those." We have not done one on the Kirk Alyn serials. Have you seen the Kirk Alyn serials, Tim? You've seen it. Okay, good. I have too. I enjoy them very much for what they are. It's not quite my Superman. But it's very close. Like George Reed's my first Superman, and I really, really enjoyed that. Kirk Alyn is very close to that, and only came really a few years before that.
Right.
But I enjoy the Kirk Alyn a lot. I don't have a whole lot to say. I mean, I guess I do have a lot to say about it if I really wanted to stop and think about it for a while.
If I went back, I haven't seen them in a while, but if I went back and watched them, sure.
Yeah.
But I tend not. Serials from that time are tough to talk about, because if you don't love serials from the 40s, or if you're gluten free or something like that, and you don't,
so bad. Oh my god,
you laughed, I'm off the hook.
Oh my god, dad jokes are us.
But if you don't love the world of the serial, and you kind of just take them for what they are, cheesy Saturday morning. They're
who puts cheese in cereal?
This Liz Lemon, working on my night cheese, So if you have to just to really take them for what they are, they're very basic. Does a nice job for what they are. You know what I mean? It's just, so I don't have much to say on them apart. They're certainly products of their time, but there's not a lot to dissect inside the serial.
Oh yeah. Okay, I would give them a little more credit than that. I think they're very enjoyable stories. They gave us Noel Neill as Lois Lane for the first time. They gave us the first live action interpretation of Superman ever.
Right.
They gave us the first, we saw Krypton being destroyed, live action and all this stuff. We saw the origin story.
Right, but my point is it's all one-liners, what you just said. You know what I mean? Like,
okay.
You're not really talking about the pathos of anything.
No, well, the storytelling style is one thing, but you could say the same thing for Golden Age comics or for the radio show or that kind of stuff too. In that sense that they're products of their time, I totally agree with that. But I enjoy them for what they are.
Exactly. You take them as the product of what they are.
You have to take them that way.
But we will also not sit here and talk for half an hour about Action Comics #1. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah.
Without going deeper into something else. That's just what I mean about the serials. Yeah. They're good fun, but they're not meant to be dissected.
It's hard to do that with everything that's come since. It's hard to dissect them. I agree with that. Yeah, it's the same level.
Yeah,
but I do enjoy them. So I'm glad, Scott. Thank you for writing in, and I'm glad you enjoy them too. If you want to hear your emails read on the podcast, Beer with Geeks, whether that's at Gmail or on Twitter or on Facebook or any of the places that you can find podcasts and talk to us on social media, iTunes, Overcast. Satchel Player, any of the fun places there are podcasts, we are there and we are ready to be heard. So thank you guys very much for listening once again. We'll be back soon with another episode, but until then, cheers.